Thank you. Thank you. We thank God again this wonderful afternoon, for He has allowed us to come back again so that we dine and we feast at His table, knowing that our God is a generous God. He makes available the word in season and out of season. We are thankful to Him for that. And there is so much that we still need to study with regards to the prophetic ministry. And trying to refresh your minds, I said it is important that even though you are not going to be a full-time prophet, but you are supposed to be prophetic in every other area that you are going to be doing in ministry, which is not the prophetic. You still have to be prophetic, so that you know that you are covered in your teaching ministry. The prophetic has to be included, so that you are covered in your evangelistic ministry. Prophetic has to be included. Even if you are going to be just focusing on raising the dead, you still need the prophetic, so that you only raise the right ones. Because there are people that people cannot wait for them to die. And when they are dead, there is jubilation. There are nations that are being reigned over by evil individuals, and citizens can't wait for them to die. And when they die and you raise them from the dead, you must understand what else it is that you're going to be dealing with. So you still need the prophetic to be able to raise the right people from the dead. So whichever ministry that you can think of, you will have to be told, if you're going to be distributing, whether it is rice or it is sugar beans or it is whatever, you're giving out clothes to people, there is always the right place for you to go at a given moment. So the prophetic will still be needed in order for you to know exactly where the need is, where you're supposed to be, so that you're not found at any given moment by God aiding and helping people that He is not interested in you helping. So you don't need to be in contradiction with what God is doing. So it's important that you always have or include the prophetic in what you do. So you have no choice but to like the prophetic. You have to try and like the prophetic. And I've given you reasons why most of you were no longer interested in the prophetic. Especially when you look at people who are prophesying and what they've done in life and the way they do it. Some have ignored character completely. The way they prophesy and the way they walk, it's completely two different things, and you would not feel like you would still want to be a prophet. And I don't blame you for that. All of us, we have once had that thought of giving up on prophecy, especially when there are too many people trying to play around that area that you know to be very, very sensitive and very serious. Because there are so many people, naturally, the way they were raised up, they were too playful. And when they get into ministry, yes. So if you are not really helped by God, you'll end up not helping God's people. it won't be good for you again. And as much as too many people are playing around that territory, you'll still continue seeing genuine things and people with real problems, and they require help prophetically. What do you do? What do you do? But I still believe there are still serious people around who really wants to serve God with all of their hearts, and they are not doing it for any other reason but to please the Lord. That's why we are here to talk about the ministry of the prophets, being able to understand God's voice. God speaks. Being able to understand even the silence of God, which is still the voice of God. Knowing why He is silent, knowing why He is no longer communicating with His people, and you derive a message from that silence and you tell the people that God is almost giving up on you. That's what He is saying. Yet He is not saying that. He's just quiet. So it's important that we understand God. Apart from trying to understand the prophetic, God is the subject, the central part. The more knowledge you acquire concerning God, the more you understand the prophetic. So I told you that when information is coming from Him to you, it's not prophecy, but from you to the people, it is now prophecy, because it is the prophet that makes prophecy prophecy. It is the prophet that makes prophecy prophecy. The prophet that makes prophecy prophecy. So if your name is John and everyone calls you John, they are calling you John. But when a prophet calls you John and you are John, that John becomes prophecy. It is the prophet that makes it prophecy. It is the prophet that makes it prophecy. So it's important that you look at who is giving you the information. In as much as maybe the prophet is telling you that what you've been hearing from other people, it's not prophecy because you've been hearing that from other people. It becomes prophecy when a prophet tells you exactly what you've been hearing from other people who are not even prophets. It is the prophet who makes prophecy prophecy. Because you can be called by everyone else John until you meet a prophet and he tells you that you are not Jacob, you are Israel. You are Israel. So, God speaks, we hear. God acts, and we observe. You analyze the character, the behavior, the mood of God. You have to be able to sense the emotion of God. You have to be able to sense the emotion of God. How is God feeling about this individual? You come across people that you look at and you're just excited. They haven't done anything to impress you, but you're just happy seeing them. It might mean that it is God who is happy, and you don't have to ask God whether He is happy about them, because God who is happy about them is in you. So you feel on His behalf. Especially when you understand the location of God, you know where God is. There are things that you will desire, and it is not you desiring, it is Him in you desiring. There are things that you will desire, and it is not you desiring. You feel at some point like healing the sick. And looking at the way that you were made, you don't usually have to feel like that. It's not normal for an average person to just be bothered by wanting to heal the sick. But when God is in you, He is not going to tell you that He feels like healing the sick. No, He will not tell you that. He makes you feel what He feels. And you feel and you think that's your feeling, and yet that's His feeling because He is in you. He is in you. And at that point, God would have communicated already. God would have sent a message to you. So it is up to you to read and to understand that God has communicated. Now, there is a level that you get to where you prophesy not because you are hearing from the Lord. Remember, there's a prophet, you know the story where he said, why shall I wait for the Lord anymore? And then he gave out a prophecy that came to pass. If you're not careful, you begin to question his source, because he had excluded waiting for the Lord. Yet he spoke, and exactly tomorrow, same time, the miracle happened. And he had said it as though God had not spoken. Okay? So, and while he yet talked with them, behold, the messenger came down unto him, and he said, behold, this evil is what? Of the Lord. This evil is of the Lord. What should I wait for the Lord any longer? Okay. So, what I want some of you people to understand is, in as much as we have the floor to ask questions and so on, we still should be able to help each other. And if you realize that maybe, how should I put it? Okay, let me leave that one for now. Let me leave it for now. This is what happens when God is speaking. There will be a time when you will receive information, not even through your ears. There is a time that you will be able to see, not even through your eyes. Okay. If you notice that there was a moment when you were told something that you didn't know, and then your response was, oh, now I see. I see. Yet you would have been told, not shown. And then your response now is, oh, I see. I see. I see. Yet the communication is not even visual. It is audible. But that audible communication has brought you into the realm of visions. And now you can see. Yet your eyes were closed, and all that you were doing is hearing. And you say, I see. There is something else in you that sees. There is something else in you that sees. You are not yet an established prophet until your eyesight is defined by your insight. When your insight takes over your eyesight, and your eyesight is regulated by your insight, then the prophetic in you is at work. What you see through your eyes has to be surrendered and submitted to the insight. The insight part of you is the part of you that defines what is seen by your physical sight. Your insight has to be broadened up. Your insight has to be broadened up. What is your insight? It is your interpretation of what you see, your understanding, your world view. What's your definition of life? Your insight, that's the part that needs to be broadened up. And when you work on that, the things that you are going to be seeing in life will always be limited. Your eyesight, when your vision, when you see, you cannot look at this material here and attach a name to it simply because you have used your eyesight. Eyesight has to hand over this material to insight, and insight has to pick the right name for this particular object that I'm holding. You collect the name of this thing, knowing what this thing is and what it is used for. That information has to come from insight. Eyesight cannot give you that. It is void of details. You can live a life of just visions and things are being dramatized right in front of you, but you can never attach meanings to those revelations and dreams and visions and so on, unless you have developed your insight enough. When your insight is developed and it is improved, you will notice that once your library is exhaustive and you are loaded with knowledge before you even start prophesying, it's something that you can start doing now. It's not up to God to make you know. No, you can buy the truth. You make effort, you reach out, and then you load yourself with insight even before you can see. I want to give it to you as an example. Do you know, you cannot look at a phone and know that it is a phone unless that information was downloaded in your insight. Okay, are you following this? Okay, let me try it again. Let me try this again. There is a time that God will come to you, and then you will look at somebody. For instance, let's have maybe a female or a lady that I can use as an example. Just not coming here. He's coming. I said a lady. Everyone wants to come. I know. But we just want to. It's not. We are not going to get into. Let's want to use things that you know, okay, so that things can be generalized, simplified. Now, what's your first name? Sorry. Fikile. Yes. Okay. Now, I have to have had knowledge. For me, if I'm to hear that not from her, the reason why I know that's her name now is because I said, "What is your name?" Had it been a word that comes from a different source, I was going to ask her, what? Fikile or filile or what? What is that? And then she was going to tell me that that's my name. Okay. Because I'm coming to her with a word, not a name. It's a word. Because I got it from the Lord but the word had nothing else attached to it to suggest it was her name. So if it's a name that I know, okay, what is your name?
Onesmo.
Sorry?
Onesmo.
Onesmo. Now, if I were to hear Onesmo whilst I'm approaching him, I would be so sure that Onesmo is a name. Not having heard from God, God telling me that Onesmo is a name. No, God would have just given me a name, but not telling me that it's a name. But when that name arrives, it gets into my insight. It will find already available knowledge. So I will approach him with confidence, knowing that what I've heard is a name. But God did not say it's a name. It was just Onesmo. But when Onesmo arrived, that word was paired with an understanding that I had already acquired even before the word arrived. So that's what I was supposed to have been doing before even a word from God comes, gathering knowledge, improving my insight, loading myself, preparing myself for a summary that God will bring. So I'm going to struggle with this wonderful and so beautiful name. I like that name. But I didn't know that's her name. I had not programmed my insight to the level of understanding that that's a name for her. So what I was supposed to do now is to prepare myself, because God is going to come at some point and probably in a vision while you're about to minister to somebody, and then he gives you number 3 and you see 3 and you see 3. But when you see 3, God is not going to tell you that 3 is a number. He assumes that you had enough time to understand that 3 is a number. So your insight was supposed to have been prepared so that when God comes, he won't waste time giving you a number and telling you that's a number. So you had enough time to prepare yourself for glimpses that are supposed to come and arrive at you, and they are subjected to an already developed insight. The development of your insight before even the gift is active, you have room to work on that. You have room to work on that. You have enough time to work on that. God might tell you to help an individual who is probably having a heart problem. And then you pick the person, and the only information probably maybe that you're going to get from God is that, son, it's not about how you're going to pray for this person. It needs to be seen by a specialist in that area physically. It comes to you like that, and then you approach the person because the solution is already available, but maybe he's not interested. There are people like that, and they end up dying before their time because he thinks that what he's practicing is faith. He's been told there could be some doctrines, some teachings against that move, and then the man is going to die. You're going to lose him. And then God is just sending you not to hit the man, but to encourage him to go ahead. So it comes summarized, and then you can invite the person and you say, the Lord is saying you need to visit a heart surgeon. But looking into what you would have heard from God, God would have not mentioned heart surgeon. But when he spoke to you concerning a heart problem, that information was received by an already developed insight. You already knew. That information was available way before God spoke to you. What were you doing with that information? It was supposed to be stored in you, waiting for a summary that will come from God. It gets into you, it comes out accompanied by insight, by information. So he will not tell you anything. If prophecy finds you empty, you do not carry, you do not have what makes it prophecy. This is why God is never going to use people that are not intelligent in the prophetic. There is no prophet in the prophetic who does it so well, who is not smart. If it is even easy for you to catch him, it's not his area. It's not his area. Several other areas you can do, but there is a certain level of spiritual IQ, not physical, spiritual IQ that is required for your prophetic ministry to be effective. Once you are established by God as a prophet, and you are put in your room, you wanted to ask a question before we moved out. So we'll give you a chance to ask. Okay, we'll give you a chance. You can sit for now. We'll give you a chance, and then she's going to ask a question. What I wanted you to see over here is that God is assuming that all of these years that I've had, He was away from me, God not bothering me, giving me all the time to come across that name and store it in me. So the day God gives me that name, I will know it's a name. But with the time that I had, it's only this name that I managed to capture. So the day that I get it from God, I was too quick to know that this is a name. But it took me time to know that this word is a name, because I didn't have it in me. And we've given you this example before, that he's praying and he sees in a vision, and jets are flying all over the place. And then when the jets got into his inside, what was picked in there were grasshoppers, right? Yes. And the prophet would go on describe weapons of war as scorpions, because that's what was stored. So his insight became his limitation. So you only prophesy to the level of your insight. God can send you a jet fighter, and what comes out to the people is a grasshopper. God can send a jet to you in a vision, but it will have to be named by your insight. And when such an object is not found, stored in your insight, but there must be something similar in your insight that flies like a jet. And you begin to talk to people concerning grasshoppers. So it's not God limiting your prophetic. It is you that has limited your prophetic by not developing your insight. You cannot allow people to ask any question. If you are not sure of your reservoir. You must be aware of your fuel gauge. What you have already put inside before the journey. When you say, I want you to ask any question, and before people can start raising their hands, even from the way they raise their hands, you already know what some of them are going to ask. And by the time they start asking questions, most people are wondering how come he had even the right scripture for that question. That's why some people end up thinking maybe this thing was arranged after all. What people don't realize is that you don't allow a question to be asked you for the first time. You should have asked yourself that question. You had enough time to ask yourself that same question, and you had time to answer the question before the question was asked. You get to a point where you rarely come across a new question. They are there, but it will become rare. If you are a person of information and you seek understanding, your desire is to understand. You are always gathering in knowledge every time wherever you go. You want to understand whatever you look at. You want to interpret it. It's very, very tiresome. That's why most people should not really be interested in getting into the prophetic office, because it takes a lot from you, and not many people can handle that. So I wouldn't want to bother you again, but it is important that you utilize the time that you have before God speaks. Utilize the time that you have before even God speaks, because when He speaks, it will be just one word. One word. And He hopes that that one word will find a landing pad already prepared with knowledge, so you know what to do with that one word. Peter, arise, kill. There's no reason. Since when did you start cooking, preparing food for me? You see. So what I want you to understand is the importance of acquiring knowledge. Love information, love knowledge, love wisdom. Spend time with somebody that really helps you shine brighter. Of the friends that you can have, you must also have friends that are prophetic, not because they prophesy, but they specialize, they enjoy hanging around light. Guys that you call and you know if we're going to talk for 14 minutes, I'm going to be left knowing something. People that you talk to and every time you are left knowing something extra. They are prophetic friends not because they prophesy, but because they seem to enjoy information. When you are now in the office of a prophet and you are prophesying and you are helping God's people from there, what I would want you to take note of, which is so critical, is an understanding that you must have as a prophet of your position, your jurisdiction, the territory, an area given to you by God to reign over. You must know that. When Jeremiah received his to-do list from the Lord was so clear that even before you were formed in your mother's womb, I had an idea. I knew you. Yes. And the knowing there is experiential. It means we had experiences together before you were formed physically. So it means you existed before you existed. And it was in that form of existence that we got to know each other. So it means, Jeremiah, in your prophecies, you will have to be able to deal with information that predates you. I don't know if there is something that I need to explain on that part. You are not going to be confined to your present age, to prophesy from the date of your birth until you die. No. Because I'm telling you that we've been playing together. I knew you.
Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee.
So if before he was formed in the belly, he was known, and the knowing is experiential, where was the experience? It means Jeremiah should be able to give certain information to his mother concerning how she grew up before even she got married to his father. That's the license you have. It's an authorization by God, from God, to visit times before even you were formed. You will know by that kind of knowledge that I have a right to access information even before me. That is what propels you to see. Nothing can hide from my sight if I have that kind of knowledge. I will not be deprived of that information because it is logged in time. No. No. I have a right to know. If I was known and God had an experience of me before I was even formed. So you cannot allow people to call you young when you are a prophet. You will not allow people to call you small when you are a prophet. This is the kind of information that helps you jump out of their limitations. You refuse to be limited by this kind of information. So I know that it pleased the Lord to give me a body. I had already pleased the Lord and I had satisfied him enough for him to then send me on an errand, and he said, let me create a body for you so that I can give you another manifestation as a bonus. So you must be coming here from somewhere. When they see you, they must believe in aliens. Yeah. We have people on this planet from another planet. I knew.
Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee.
And what else did I do?
And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee.
Sanctified thee, set you apart before you came even out of your mother's womb. Yes.
And I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations.
Ordination, which is supposed to come after probation. You had passed already before you were born, and I ordained you. I ordained you. You came out already ordained, ready to prophesy. But Jeremiah, from the day he was born right up until this day, he had not yet started prophesying. Look at the time that he started prophesying. Now, how old is he? It's the same as Paul. Paul said, an apostle of the Lord, I was called from my mother's womb. His calling dates back to the mother's womb, but in between is the one killing Christians. But when it what?
But when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace.
That's what I said, that God would have called you many, many years ago, and then you hear him today. And then you start responding to a call that you think is fresh. Yet God had said to Abraham, You are hearing it today because of what you have done to yourself today. You have fine-tuned yourself. Now what you are hearing is an ancient frequency. So what you think is breaking news today was breaking news 5 years ago. How many times is the news supposed to break? I don't know. Because I had told people years before, there was an announcement on a national broadcast television that I'm seeing people in this country in uniform, and the uniform it's not for that chair. They don't belong there. These are not the people to be reading news for us. Okay? And the rest of the people are still waiting for breaking news. When does the news break? Now, you know, he wants to read it out.
True, Father.
No.
Is it not supposed to be time for the news?
Okay, let's leave it for now. We want to use practical. You see, when you are established by God as a prophet, it doesn't mean that you always have to be prophesying. No, there is just sometimes just one prophecy that has to be sent out, and then you relax. Whoever wants to play around, let them use that one.
Yeah.
Against whoever is going to come. It's enough. Because that's not the kind of a prophecy that you would give. Given our political environment in this country.
6 March 2016.
So it must not just be prophecy that you are receiving. Like I told you, it's not prophecy that you get from God. It cannot just be information that you have received and then you go on and then you give it out as prophecy. There must be something else attached to that information. Security. Power. It is called military takeover, right? Then I said, let me play with words and let me turn them upside down. And I said, overtake. And I said, when it happens, I'll come, then we'll realign these words. Don't say I will be playing with words. The same thing that I did with prophecy concerning Mozambique. And I said, I'm seeing the flag upside down, half-mast, but the flag is opposite. It is opposition. It is opposite. It is opposite. And I said, this is the guy, and this is what is going to happen, and so on. I had already given that prophecy while we were still at Life Haven, and then this is in church. Okay. Now, the wisdom that accompanies that.
Father, can I just say, the two prophecies you mentioned, the overtaking prophecy was on the 6th of March 2016, and the Mozambique prophecy was on the 6th of March 2016.
Do you think, I don't know, do you think I'm very ignorant, not knowing that it is not called overtaking? It is taking off. Was I not already telling you that that term is going to be disputed? Was that not also a part of the prophecy?
Yes.
Until now, a coup has never happened. Are you following me? Yes. Are you following me? Yes. Are you following this?
Yes.
I wish this was not a seminar. I wish we were here for at least a month or so. No, not really a seminar. It was just supposed to be a family gathering. Because there is so much available for you to learn. And most of the things that you will hear, you will forget, and after a while, and so it will start coming back to you from your reigns. Tell me if you are a prophet who is a prophet by office. Tell me, what do you do to not see? Because that's your fear, some of you. You are afraid that you might say something that is not correct. So you want to play smart by not trying to get into this prophetic thing. Because what if I'm wrong? So I would rather not prophesy to people. I'll come back to those prophecies that I gave. So you want to play smart. You are more cunning than even a false prophet. You know what you go on to do? Can I give you an example? You don't want to invite one person, call him up front, and then talk to him, and then end up lying to him. You are trying by all means to avoid making such a mistake of lying only to one person. But you have gone on to create sermons that have lasted for 2 hours. And you are talking to hundreds of people, telling them that God is about to move on your behalf. Things that you never had. God did not tell you that I'm about to move on their behalf. Notice. I wonder the kind of fear that you have of not wanting to lie to one person, but hundreds of them you can manage. Your season has come. You will never leave this place the same. Who told you? You may be seated. If I ask you now to say, okay, so why is it that you can't prophesy to one person? You say, I'm waiting until I see a vision that you never saw when you went on to preach to thousands. If it's one person, you want to be sure. If it's 1,000, you don't care. You are speaking as though you heard from God whilst preaching. What is wrong with you? So if I'm going to ask you a question, that, okay, you have prepared the sermon for all of us. Can you please personalize this? Would you please invite one person and tell that one person what you are about to tell all of us? It becomes a very serious prophecy where you're looking at one person and you're saying you have been waiting for a long time for God to move on your behalf. And whilst I was praying, this is what I feel, this is what I pick concerning your next move in the realms of God. God wants to show you something that you have never seen. Your generation, it's one person that you're preaching to. How come if it's one person you feel like you are lying? One person. You feel like you are lying. You are the same liar. I promise you that I'll try to simplify it, and that's what I'm doing now. But you see, you know, you start realizing that, oh, I'm not wise after all. That's exactly what I'm doing. All of you, if we were to play your sermons here, you can give us your name and then we Google it right now and then we listen to your sermons on YouTube. You speak like you've seen an angel. Thank you. Oh my God. 1 hour talking to hundreds of people, yet one person, you cannot deliver a word of comfort. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? So as you were teaching, as you were preaching, was God giving you word for word? Because that's what you want him to do when you're talking to one person. You must be ashamed of yourself. If I were you, I would cover my face. Be seated, please. We're at a meeting. We usually have those meetings with pastors, and at some point I said, okay, I would want you to pick somebody amongst our people here. And I said, okay, do you have a lie that you want to tell the person? Let's say, of course, you're afraid, you don't want to lie to people. Because that's not good for you to be moving around and lying to people. But I would want you to pick somebody and then lie to that person. Pick someone and say information that is incorrect. Because that's what you're afraid of. Look for somebody that you can pick and then you lie to the person under a prophetic environment. And then you are going to, of course, go ahead and you will lie, and the person is going to confirm that, no, you are lying to me. Everything that you are going to say, your father is so and so, you're coming from, and the person is going to say no to all that. You have lied to the person, yes. And then I will take your lie, everything that you said, and then I'll start telling the person exactly what you said. And she will begin to confirm everything. And everything becomes true. How? It is the prophet that makes it prophecy. You are lying because you are not a prophet, but prophesying. If you are a prophet, you cannot even lie. There's no room for you to lie. I didn't say you see everything, but I'm saying there is no room for you to what? Lie. Because if I tell you what I'm seeing and you tell me no, your no is according to what you know. Inside. If you use it in reverse and you're prophesying, not just as a man of God, you have the power, an angelic power, and you meet a man and you tell him you are Israel. He will tell you, I am Jacob. It's a no. It's false. Let me repeat it again. You tell a person that your name is Israel, he tells you false. You have lied. My name is what? Jacob. How far can you see? As far as where? I understand if that is your fear, but I've tried to deal with that kind of fear and said, how come when the people become many? Because if they want to really attack you when there are too many, you can't survive. But one person makes you afraid. What is it in you that you really want to be sure if it is just? How come that you are too careless when you're driving a bus full of passengers, and when you are just by just two of you, or maybe a motorbike, you want to be more careful when it's one person and careless when you have more passengers? What is it? What is it about you that it has to be God and you have to be sure if it's just one person? So destroying more lives is easier than just one life? I'm showing you now. Look at your character. Look at your thinking. Look at your behavior. I've never seen a terrorist that bad. When it's just a few of you, you can't. You cannot dismantle a grenade when it's just the two. But when you see too many people, you feel like I want to open it up. Let's see what happens. Oh my God. I don't want to spoil this testimony. It is still on its way. You'll get to know about it. But I went privately to this couple. I could see this is a couple, and it was prophetic. Because a woman standing next to a man doesn't mean that it's a couple. And God is not going to tell you that. Wisdom has to tell you that. You will join people that are never joined. Don't move in the obvious. You must have acquired wisdom first before prophecy. Now, whilst people are busy singing and praying and so on, I went to them because there are so many prophecies that are so sensitive that are not meant for everyone to hear. Because I'm there to build families. So I have two families to build. The church is a family, and there is another family inside of the church. And when it's time for the family inside of the church to be built, sometimes we exclude the church. So I get to them, and then I picked, and it was so clear, and I knew that this is a couple. And I said to them, listen to what I said. Because I'm trying to prove, because you asked me a question, how? How? And I said, I want you to, I'm seeing a baby girl. And they were all excited. Yes, a baby girl, a baby. And I said, I want you to bring that baby girl. I want to pray for her. I have to lay my hands on that girl. And they all went quiet. The joy just disappeared. And the husband said to me, we lost her. She's dead. And then I went back to the information that I had gotten from the Lord. It was so clear. There was no error. I looked at all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And I came back and I said, okay. When was this? They told me the time. Then I said to them, there is this name that I'm hearing. I gave them a name, and there was no surname, and I waited enough patiently for the surname, and I got the surname. Still, they could not remember the person. And I said, I want you to write this name down. They wrote the name. Some people could have seen it. How come these people, maybe people might have thought maybe they're just writing what they're being told. Of course, that's exactly what they were doing, writing the name. Then I asked them a question. I said, I'm hearing, I did not attach a meaning to the question. I asked a name, it was just a name. And then they said it's a name of a hospital. Then I said to them, I want you people to go there. And they went there with the name. It took them time. Well, before they even went to that place, I went on to convince them whilst people were busy doing what they were doing. I said, if I, because I had seen them bringing the child, me laying my hands on this little girl. So, listen to where the story is going. What I'm going to tell you here is going to shock you. And I told them exactly what I had seen. Because I had seen myself laying hands on this, and then I'm being told that she's dead. So my thinking is, am I supposed to raise her from the dead? She's died a long time ago. Is there a new baby that is coming that I'm supposed to pray for? Or is the Lord saying, pray for them so that they have... You look for different interpretations as a prophet. Until God started giving me a name. And the name they gave to me was again a female name. So I was going to say, maybe God is going to give you a girl by this name. And then the same name now that is coming is different. They don't know the name, the first name. They don't even know the same name. And I'm thinking again as a prophet, is this man going to die and then she's going to be married and then maybe that man. All those are avenues. You must have that wisdom as a prophet. And yet I searched in all those areas. The Lord still kept bringing me back to this issue that has to be solved. So I knew now, and then when they told me about the other name that I mentioned, they said that's a hospital. Then I said to them, if there was a way of you people doing a DNA of that child. I didn't know that after that session they went on to police to get clearance and the body of the baby was exhumed. They did some checks and they found out that that was not their baby. Now find out what is about to happen now. So with the information that I get, so they came back with the name and they said, so we want to understand, is this the next baby that is coming? I said, no, go back to that hospital. They went back. Exactly at the time that the baby was born. She was born prematurely. There was an exchange. Something happened. And they got the wrong baby. And somebody else with that name that I gave to them took their girl away. And the girl is still alive. So now the next move was to convince that family that it was their baby that is dead, and the one that they have belonged to this couple. So to convince them again, another DNA has to be done for them to know. But the results of this one, they still have it, of the one that has already died. Look at how prophecy can line up things. It all started from tell them to bring their daughter for prayer. So if it was publicly, everyone was, those are falsehoods now. That's what you're afraid to do, because the person is going to tell you that's wrong what you've said. Can you prophesy falsely being in the office of a prophet? It's just how much time that you spend looking into the matter. And the hospital went back into the history. There are files and files. These are many, many years ago. I said, you must make sure, go back to the time that you gave birth. You just use that same week. And they came across that name. There was also a woman who prematurely gave birth to and there was a switch, maybe tags were exchanged, something, and it happens. Now they are sitting there mourning over a baby that is not even theirs. So you can meet people with something that they don't have, yet they have it. You tell them you have it, they say that you are lying. Can you lie being a prophet? You see now, we are agreeing now. We are agreeing now. You agree. You will meet people and God tells you, pray for this man. He has a problem that unless you pray for him, this low sperm count, it's impossible for him to have babies. And you tell him there's a spirit of barrenness over your life, you can't have babies unless I pray for you. And he tells you, I have 4, say. I have 4. Can you lie as a prophet? Can you lie? So I'm dealing with lies that you fear to tell.
My father, if I can just confirm something.
Let's be seated. Yes, go ahead.
During a healing session, I think it was in 2014, you told a couple they had a chart written business. Their business was in trouble. So they said, we want business revival and so and other matters. But then he went on to tell them that you are HIV positive. And then they bluntly said, no. I just got recently tested and my wife got recently tested. We are not positive. And that was around 11 a.m. They walked out. at the end of the healing session, they came back, the two of them, and said, we want to see the prophet. We want to see the prophet. So I asked them, what is wrong? They said, we've just been tested and here are our results. Both of them were positive.
Now what they needed, and he knew them quickly because the prophecy was public. They'd openly declined and they denied. I said, but that's what I'm seeing. I said, no. It's just recently been tested. I don't know what had happened there, but and they left the place like it was not in good spirit. Like this guy is fake. You could see by the way they were walking, the two of them, as they were leaving the place. We are never coming back. We knew this guy was fake. So I kept on praying for people, and I could see him talking to them, and I knew where they were coming from. While I was laying my hands on people, I was looking there, I knew they are back. But they are coming back to a different environment now. The anointing that I had that was present when I picked that is no longer present. So then people can begin to question, how can he see that and not be able to correct it if he's a true prophet? There was emphasis that the power to heal was present on him on that day. It can be an hour. It can be on that minute. There is so much that we can talk about the prophetic that you might end up forgetting that you have a ministry to go back to. Sometimes what makes you lie is the way that you present your prophecy. You tell people that unto us a child is born and unto us a son is given. It is in present tense. People will start looking around to see if there is any son of that sort that is born. And they have no understanding of where you are declaring that from. Your location can make you lie. Your GPS can mess you up. Where are you situated at the time of the prophecy? You can say to a man that your father is dead, yet his father is still alive. But you're speaking from where? And a week later, his father is dead. Where were you when you spoke? But the day you prophesied, it was a lie. And if he tells, and you tell him your father is dead, and he says, it's another version again, how does he know? It's up to you, prophet, again, to tell him who his father really is. Try to lie as a prophet and see if you can succeed. You cannot. If I look at you now and try to pick on a lie, try to pick on a lie, let me try to lie to this person, I'm going to be embarrassed. Because everything is going to come out true. What you're afraid of is afraid of you. What you fear fears you. You have already escaped lies as a prophet. It's a matter of time. They will soon understand what you meant. They will soon understand what you meant. Time will vindicate you. Time will come and confirm your prophecies. You'll die like Isaiah died, not celebrated as a prophet, because your prophecies that you picked are too far from here. Too far from here. I don't want to keep giving you examples. I have a lot of those. But I avoid situations where you start then appreciating what I do again more than what you can do. These are things that you can do. Start from the basics. Don't be afraid to help people. Don't be afraid. These people that are coming to you, they have their confidence in you. They believe that you hear from God, and that is very true. You hear from God. You are a child of God. So when you are ministering to a person, like I've already indicated earlier on, please take it easy with information. Take it easy. Especially when you are starting. You can look at a prophet who is seasoned, and he is with so much confidence, the way that he does it. And then in trying to also come up to his level, you can make a mistake of already inheriting his style of doing it. And then you start at that level of confidence, and then you mess up everything. Your approach has to be gentle. Prophesy to him as if you're still at the same level. I'm just a man like you. Learn from Peter to Cornelius. I'm just a man like you. I wish, my sister, I wish I could help you. I'm looking at your situation now. Even yesterday, that is if you prayed for her yesterday. Even yesterday, you make sure so that you don't lie, so that you avoid lying. You must have prayed for her. You pray for her so that tomorrow when you are saying, yesterday, whilst I was praying for you, you're not lying. So lies can be avoided. So you cannot lie because lies can be avoided. There's no reason for you to lie. So whilst I was praying, do you know there is no way that you can pray for somebody and not pick information about him? There is no way. There is no way whatsoever. There's no way. You were not praying for him. There's no way. That's the code. That's the password that God has given to all of us to access other people's files. When you become concerned with another person's life and you start praying for them, God will begin to give you issues concerning their life so that you keep praying for them. Not just so that you prophesy to them. No. A list of things that concerns them will be opened up to you. So you start not by loving prophesying, but you start by loving people. You pick a person that you say, I want to show love to this person by praying for her tonight. And then you are mentioning her name in prayer as you are walking around, mentioning her name in prayer, covering all of. You start picking areas where you just find yourself mentioning something that if she was present, she would begin wondering, these legal issues that you are mentioning now, where did you pick that from? It's just that she's not present to confirm, and you're not smart enough again to record what you said in your mind concerning her during the prayer that you were doing for her. There is no way that you can pray for somebody and not get to know certain things about him or her. It's not possible. It's not prayer that you're doing. So I can ask you today, if you have a relative, you don't know much about the person, but you have got the name and so on. We can do an exercise and say, pick the person. Now, what I want you to start doing is to increase your love for the person. Before we even talk of wanting to prophesy to them, love, wanting things to go well for him. And you increase that, and the next level is, I would want you to begin to pray, mentioning the name of this person. Whatever comes into your mind as you are praying for that person, anything good, because everything good and that is perfect comes from above. Wishing the person well, whilst you are praying, your mind will wander. You are praying, mentioning things that you want to see happen to him, whilst using a language that you understand. And the problem with the language that you understand is that you listen to it whilst you're speaking. So you have your mind attached to the language. And the moment you begin to speak in tongues, you have allowed your mind to wander whilst you're talking. Why? Because you know that your mind is unfruitful when you're speaking in tongues. You have freed your mind from the language. So you have given your mind, let me say mind. Oh. Because you're speaking whilst you have something in your mind, which is difficult for you to speak in English and have your mind on something else. Because you have to be there consciously during the construction of those statements. So you are there, all of you, your language, your mouth is there, and your brains are there. Why? Because your mind is fruitful. But when a man speaks in another language, his understanding is unfruitful. It means it's during that time when now your mind will visit a certain place, because you are allowed to pray in tongues knowing that I'm praying for him. But then your mind will visit a certain situation. Then you must be able now to join the two. How come whilst I was praying for her, what I saw was an old heart? It was as if I had left this place. What has that to do with the person that I was praying for? Combining the two, being able to marry the two is what makes you a prophet. Okay, if I give you a chance to ask a question, ask a prophetic question, so that we don't get lost. You want to ask me a question? Prophetic? Yes, not for me to prophesy to you. No. You want to further open up your insight. I want to take you to a strange place. So make sure that you ask me a question that really provokes me. I want serious stuff, because when I'm talking to you, my stuff is serious. When you're asking me, no, I want to see whether I have you here. You have a question? Okay, let's hear from him first. Make sure it's the right one, because people are going to stone you here. Because I have things that I want. You know, the reason why I'm giving you this chance is because I have things that I have to first of all verify. Because I've realized that from morning until up until now, I've things that I had lined up for you that I wanted to talk to you concerning the prophetic. And each time that I try to get into those areas, I'm looking at some of you, I'm wondering, is this the right, am I supposed to? But your questions, do I have the right audience? That's the issue. If I'm to get the right question, then you have opened up the gate. And for your own information, I know exactly what you're supposed to ask. I know what you're supposed to ask for me to get into what we really need to talk about.
Father, we have a question.
Somebody's
here
saying,
to
let's do away with questions. But how am I going to know? How am I going to know? Okay. Thank you, what? After all, my time is almost up. So, pastors, I think it's good for you maybe to even give these people a chance even to talk to you first, so that we don't. I don't want to seem like I've ignored some of the most important questions. So it's up to you, pastors. You understand I'm operating at what level, so you can get to listen to some of these questions before even you don't send them to me. There's no way that you can send those questions to me. But if there is a prophet present, that's all that the prophet needs to prophesy, the right question. And then your ministry starts.
Afternoon, our Father.
Good evening. It's almost time.
Yeah. Father, I think we have got a very big problem. And I think it's only you who can help us deal with it. The problem is the nature of person you are, you make asking questions impossible. Because you make asking questions impossible. Because we had a couple of questions that we discussed with a few friends during lunch, and we were really vibing, thinking that we're going to confront you with such, but from the start of the session, after lunch until now, we have finished all the questions. So, and another big problem is
it's good
that
for us to go home.
And another big problem, Baba, is that, I don't know whether it's our nature that you continue to feel like asking, though you have addressed the most important parts, if not everything of that question. It's a hunger that continues to grow. Because amongst the questions that we had, one of it was from how you do the prophetic ministry yourself. You have given us an opportunity to witness you prophesy to people and give national and international prophecies. Yes, we can attest to the fact that it's so complex, though so many times you try to be relevant to us and also make us part of what you'll be doing. It has worked in times, but sometimes it has not worked. But coming to this part, Father, where sometimes you get into people's dreams, when you're explaining a person's dream, okay, maybe let me start from this point. And I think already you can tell the confusion that asking questions is impossible. So somebody has a dream and you pick the person prophetically, you want to talk them or you are talking to them. How sometimes it's so instant with you, to the extent that even if you are to tell someone that is because maybe from your teachings you are in the office, that's why maybe you are able to do that. The speed at which you then do it.
Speed. Okay, let me help you on that one.
Yes, Dad.
What happens is this. Let me, yeah. Okay, yeah. All right. I want you people to look at this. Let me address the issue. I'm not going to be prophesying, but I want you to understand something. Pick something here. Because the issue of speed is a necessity in all of the journeys that you're going to be traveling in the spirit. Without speed, you remain in one place. Okay? Or you get there late. Be seated, please. Now, this is what happens. You are going to realize that when you have too many people as your audience, you might think that it is easier for you as a prophet to identify an individual who has got a problem because of the numbers. You would think it is easy when you have too many people. It's easy only when you are going to call out a problem, describe a problem, and allow the person to come out. Numbers then become an advantage. You're most likely to have even more than 20 people coming out because of one problem that you would have described. So it's a general way, that one you can get away with it. Because you're not choosing, you're not pinpointing an individual. You describe the situation, and most people might have had that experience, and then they come out. Because numbers are there to assist. But bringing a person, pointing at a person, and then you attach a situation, you have already moved another step ahead. Again, if you want to be moving around prophesying to people, the lesser number you have, the better. The lesser number you have, I'm talking about, maybe we might differ, but if I'm to share with you my personal experiences, what I've learned so far in the spirit when it comes to helping people prophetically, I can tell you that I can do much better having smaller groups of people than having a multitude crying and everyone demanding for that one prophetic attention that I have. With too many people, I've said this before, let me say it again. I'm trying to also cover a number of people so that when you have 1,000 people, you can't then prophesy to only 2 people for the next 2 hours. It will seem like it's a drama. It was arranged. So you mean all of us have just come to see those 2? So because now what you want to achieve is a bigger number, you are going to be bound to lose out on information. Because whilst you're prophesying to this one, there's a bell in you that rings that, hey, be careful. We want to achieve not just prophecy, but number. So you keep moving, picking too many people, and briefly telling them this is what is going to happen, this is what has happened, and you're praying in, because you want to achieve not just prophesying and giving details, but there is a number so that you achieve satisfaction. There's a level of satisfaction that people begin to feel it is fair now. So we're talking of speed. I'm coming to exactly what you highlighted. As if somebody is having a dream and is explaining, or maybe I can even pick on his dream as if I'm dreaming his dream, and they shall dream dreams. All that is covered in scriptures. But you know, sometimes for me to dream what you would have dreamt, I don't need your night. All I need is your dream. So, okay, but okay, let's come to this let's come to this issue of numbers. And then there's a moment when I know that I have to only cover this number from here to here. I'm relaxed spiritually, because this is a smaller number. And I have 3 hours to exhaust. So I'm not in a rush. So I'm going to drive slowly. Because in most cases, when you are driving faster, there are more chances of you getting involved in a prophetic accident. And you cannot tell me that driving at 200 kilometers an hour, you are having a nice view of the neighborhood. That's not true. So number one, when you have smaller audience, what you think is a disadvantage, some of you, I need numbers. If you can't prophesy to that smaller group now, it's an advantage that you have. And numbers are soon going to become a disadvantage. Because whilst I'm talking to him, he is confident that the prophet will get to me. So he's not going to be screaming in my ears. He allows me to service this man thoroughly, knowing that my turn will come. Even if I don't get it today, next Sunday, we are still a small group. So I'm relaxed. So I have a better view of him because of the speed that I'm using traveling into his life. So I'm relaxed. Okay. So what happens is this. When you're trying to cover too many people, for instance, so you look at my eyes. Now, you can sort of like draw an arrow, right? So that when I'm looking at him, you know that I'm looking at him. Now, when I'm going to be prophesying, because there are times when you look at somebody and you get information about him, and there are times when you get information and you look for the owner. Two things. Sometimes you look at a person and then you get information after looking at him, and then sometimes we're looking elsewhere and then you get information, and then you start looking for the owner of that information. So your eyes are going to and fro, to and fro, to and fro, to and fro. Speed, speed, speed. So follow this. So in as much as you were saying it's difficult to ask a question, you then ask the question. But this is the question. Now, it's if what I know in 2 seconds, you'll know in 2 years. It will be recorded that all of us knew about it. We got to know about it. The difference is in time, speed. So let's say this is what can cause you to end up messing up your prophetic ministry, or your prophetic ministry messing you up. One of you is going to mess each other. This is what is happening. So let's say I'm moving from him. Before I even start prophesying, my eye is on him, and on her, and on her, and on him, and on her, and on him, and on him. And then I go back again. and then. This kind of a movement that I'm doing. Okay? I'm trying to pick information. So if you don't understand how you operate, I might look at him and feel nothing and say, okay, so I have nothing to tell this man. Let me try the next, nothing. Let me try the next and nothing. Let me try the next. And then I pick information. And you might make then a mistake. And then maybe you pick a name and you say, you are so and so. Or do you know so and so? And then I see him jumping. Okay. So I must have an understanding of my speed, how it needs to be regulated. It means when I was looking at him, transmission of information, there was a download which is slower than my movement. I'm too fast that whilst I was concentrating on him and I had nothing, I went to the next person, had nothing, went to the next person. By the time I got to him, information about him then arrived. So it happens that sometimes what you begin to tell this man, that one is surprised. He's describing me. So the conversion of your speedometer, if it's in miles per hour, you need to understand. You can get a ticket. You can be arrested, and yet you think you're observing a certain speed in kilometers. How fast does information flow to you? So you're going through this row. By the time you get to this point, you're picking information about him. The number of children that you want to impose on him are the number of children that he has. So whilst you're prophesying, you're not just there to give people information, you're there also to understand yourself as a prophet. At the end of any prophetic session, you must leave that place understanding yourself better. So that you understand that I'm not missing information. I'm just misplacing information. So many people are going to be so hard on you because they don't understand all this. That's why a prophet, people should really be merciful and be patient with a prophet. Imagine all these things that I'm telling you. Having to go through all this just so that you help people and giving them the right answers. And people are so hard on us that a very simple mistake, they forget everything else that you said. I'm telling you one thing that can make you false, and yet you're not false. So your eye is traveling too faster, your physical eye, than your spiritual eye. Whilst your spirit was locked on him, you kept on searching physically. And information now comes to you when you had focused on a different person physically, and then information is coming. That's disaster. What is it, Pastor, again? So there is a proper calibration. You have to be calibrated so that you know. But what I'm seeing is a dream that he saw. What I'm seeing is a vision that he saw. What I'm seeing is a thought that he had. Because all of these things, they come in different colors. and in different shapes. If I give you my color, you'll be lost. Because you have to know yourself, how you see. How do you see? Because there are people that are called color blind. If you come across that, people that are color blind. If you're color blind, still there's a color that you see. I'm very sorry for what I'm doing to you, please. Please forgive me. But I thought maybe a seminar should be like this. I'm not happy with most of the seminars that I've attended, personally. I had a desire for the things of God. This is what I would have wanted to hear every time. But I've noticed that such gatherings are so scarce. People can market and advertise, and the venues are so magnificent, and what you begin to hear there is Sunday school stuff. The men that you believe to be so big, look at the detail, look at the information that he starts giving people. You are wondering, are we? Come on! I don't want to be, I would rather be in a place where I'm bamboozled. I would rather leave the place confused, but knowing that the information was too much, than to leave me. No. No. Even if you're not going to be prophesying, but at least you're going to appreciate the prophet. You are going to be more merciful. You are going to be forgiving. Knowing what he goes through. Trying to help you. And if you understand what the prophet is going through, some of you also need to be, because prophets are sent to prophesy to prophetic people. And they are at peace. When prophets are prophesying prophetic people, the prophet is at peace. Because you come across people who are just there to complicate things. You'll know a week later that what you were telling him was true. No shaking of head, nothing, no yes, no thank you, nothing, nothing. No movement whatsoever. And if you make a mistake trying to get into the prophetic and you start by picking such an individual, you never prophesy again. Again. Don't complicate things for the prophet. He's just trying to help you. Be seated. I was just trying to explain the area of speed. But regulate yourself, understand yourself, how information flows to you. Sometimes I'm in a position where I have to hear what God is saying. Sometimes I have to know, not by hearing. There is information that God has that you don't have. And that's the information that he has to tell you. But the information that God knows, that you know, he won't tell you that. You have to know. Huh? Yes. Yes, that's the same thing. Some people, like I said, they take advantage of the night if they've known themselves to be dreamers. Unless there's a night, they can't transfer information. You have to wait. if you realize that you are strong at dreams, and dreams, that's your area, you dream and things happen, but you realize that no, most of the people coming to you for help, they are coming in the afternoon. So what do? You must understand the dream frequency. Because your dream pattern is according to a channel. And if you get to know the state that you are in whilst you are asleep, knowing the state, you can still dream whilst you are standing like this. Because it's a state that causes you to dream. It's a position that you put your flesh in that gives your spirit, the spirit man, the liberty to begin to see. And you can practice that until you start dreaming whilst you are walking in front of people. And you'll be found telling people dreams that you are having immediately, there and there. Because it's a position. Okay, remind me, I have to come back to the issue of knowing not by being told. Okay, let me which one should I? For instance, there is a dimension of godliness in us that will not allow us to hear God's voice. God talking to us. Just like the things that God is going to know, God is never going to tell himself. There is no any other voice that God is going to hear that will educate him. He knows what he knows by knowing. And he will tell you from knowing, then he tells you. He doesn't hear so that he knows, so that he tells you. No, he knows and then he tells you so that you know. So if that kind of a God is in you, what you inherit is that knowing. God has never heard himself say this and that and that. That's not the voice that God hears. He knows by knowing. So imagine if that God is in you and suddenly you begin to know what he knows. There won't be any voice that you will hear. You just know by knowing, the same way that he knows. So you will not tell people what you are hearing. You start telling people what you know, because the God in you knows. So at that moment, your eyes are closed, your ears are closed, you are not even hearing what God is saying, but you are knowing what he knows. Because where is he? He's in you. You now have the mind of who? Christ. Okay, let me show you the issue of the dreams. Trying to maintain your state, you must know. All of us, we can agree that what causes you to dream, it's a position that you have put your flesh in. Your flesh is in a certain state that now gives liberty to the spirit man to venture. It is the sleep of the body. When your flesh goes to bed, the inner man takes advantage. When the cat is away, the mice play. Rats, they have a way of knowing that the cat has gone on holiday, and they come out. So the spirit man is waiting just for this flesh to go to bed. That's the only opportunity that I have. I can't wait for this man to go to bed. That's why you love dreaming so much, and you see much better. And things that you see while you're in bed, they come to pass more than things that you see while you're awake. So now, what you need to understand now, what makes you really sleep, it's not the darkness, it's not the night that comes after hours. No, it's a state. So if you can begin to study. Yes, thank you. Let's look at the slumber. Let's look at the slumber. Because God speaks to people.
Job 33 verse 14.
Thank you so much.
For God speaketh once, yea twice,
Yes.
yet man perceiveth it not.
What we don't have is the ability to perceive. God speaks once, yes, twice. Now, here now, in what form? To most people, look at these forms before we even get to sleep. In where?
In a dream,
In a dream?
in a vision of the night.
In a dream, in a vision of the night. As if those two things are different. I wish I had time to explain that to you.
This is what we are here for.
It's a vision of the night because you've seen it in the night. You can make it a vision of the day, the same vision of the night. If you know what to do during the day, if you can program your flesh and be able to manipulate and to cheat yourself into sleep whilst you are awake, you start dreaming. Okay. Dream, vision
In a
of the night.
dream, in a vision of the night,
Yeah, that one.
when deep sleep falleth upon men.
When deep sleep falleth upon men. Again,
In slumberings upon the bed.
in slumberings, when a person is slumbering, you are not yet asleep. Take note of that. You are being told that there is an entry point into deep sleep. It's a slumbering that comes before the deep sleep. Whilst you are relaxed, seated at home, there is a moment when you just feel like I'm almost go. You can almost tell you are in between those two states. And the slumbering can be maintained.
Slumber, to be drowsy.
Drowsy. And yet the word is saying God in that state speaks to people. So it's a state of your life that you can harness. Sit down and study that with the right person, telling you what exactly is happening to you. I can give you some examples, but I don't want to copy. I don't want you to copy that. So sometimes, let's say this is mom's cup. And then I'm giving you this. Some of you might have heard this before. And I'm going to bed. That's me. I did not arrive at this place just like that. Like an explosion happened and then I was here. No. Look at this journey. I knew that I was good at seeing things in the night. And sometimes I would forget. Like you forget, some of you. So now I say, I want to have a way of retaining most of my dreams. Then going to bed, now I have this. Then I'm holding on to the cup. I go to bed. I sleep. The next morning you wake up, you can't even find the cup. It's maybe down there. Because you lose consciousness. You lose your grip. Your mind is on something else. It's difficult for you to go to bed and you hold this and you sleep for hours and you wake up still holding it like this. It's an exercise of the spirit that by the time I'm not saying, please don't make a mistake of going and then you hold people's cups and then, please. I'm just giving you an example of something that I personally did. I realized that it got to a point where I could have this in the night. I sleep, and then I wake up and I still have it in my hand. And I realize that I can almost remember everything that I dreamed. Most of what I saw in the night. How? Because being conscious, always wanting to make sure that I maintain this physically out here whilst I'm having a spiritual experience. It's an in-between place that I discovered. So that I'm able to, at the same time, Imagine that's why people will say, this must be witchcraft. If I had said holding a Bible, you are going to lose the meaning. I'm not talking of a Bible. I'm just talking of any object. If I tell you the name of the object, you're going to say, maybe there's something about that thing. I'm just using this cup. To be able to sleep for hours and you wake up still holding this. Yet you know you've had a dream. Yes. It means you have maintained a certain posture. There is a place which allows both your conscious state and your subconscious state to coexist. There is no place where I ever saw this on internet. Google all you want. But I'm telling you of things that can be done. That's why I said to you, I can raise a person who never thought that he would ever prophesy. Yes. And I can give you a better position in the prophetic where I have never been to. We hide all these things from you because we don't want you to join the company of the prophets. We want all of you to keep coming to us for solutions. Oh, some are going to be holding knives tonight. Oh. If you are somebody who loves sleep, this is not a game for you. This is the labor of prophets. These are things that the Holy Ghost, He teaches me these things. And some of these things might not work for you. Why? Because medication to a patient is supposed to be per prescription, according to the doctor that you visit. I'm just telling you what I've done to myself. So I know how to program my body, even whilst I'm here, so that I'm in a sleeping state and I have access to a dream. And I can tell you what I'm dreaming now, so that it ceases to be just a vision of the night. Be seated, please. Thank you. When it was a dream that the king had and he wanted an interpretation, all that the prophet said to ask for was time. What they needed was a night. Time, speed. Give us some time, O king. And Daniel had to go to his friends, and he told his friends, this is the assignment that we have. The king is in need of his dream. He dreamt and he lost it. And he wants to kill people who cannot remember what he dreamt. And the politicians, to a certain extent, the politician is right. Because he's demanding this from people who have positioned themselves to be prophetic. You've told me that you are magicians. You can access spiritual activity. That's your position. And you've been on payroll in the palace. You're on salary. So he was right to say, if you don't tell me my dream, I'm going to kill all of you. He was right. He was good at testing the prophetic. So whilst we are on that point, I give it to you as wisdom. Any prophet that you're going to invite to your ministry, before he ministers to the greater number, he must first come home and you bring your maid and your relatives, sit them before him, test the gift before you expose him. Then you realize that prophets are not that many. I'm helping you so that you don't get you don't get your ministry spoiled. Bring the people that you know. You openly tell him whilst you are laughing as friends. You say, my friend, you know there's too much of fake of this in this. I just want to be sure if you are my friend, you really jokingly like that. It has to be. Let's see. You realize that most of the information that is going to give to those people is general information. But when you get to church, it will be too deep. Why? His source is strange, weird. He's not gathering information from God. Because any source, you see, this is very, very important. This is key. There are so many people that you admire because of their level of gifting. Why? You are yet to verify that. Some of you are even more gifted than them. You invite them for a lesser display of a gift than what you have. Yours is more genuine. You even fear lying to people. This guy, his soul is seared. He's no longer worried about lying to people. He doesn't care. That's why you think he's more gifted than you. Bring him home. Let's sit. Let's dine. Let's get to hear. Do you think that a person who can give you information like I'm giving you now can fail to see? Can I know all this that I know and not be able to see? And then go on and fake prophecies having known all this? There's no room for me to not know and to not see and to not hear. Why should I fake? Because what I know now is even harder for even prophets to know. Most prophets that are prophesying cannot they cannot explain this. So where am I reading? I was supposed to be afraid of you guys. You are ministers. When ministers are coming, flying all over, that's the time to write some few things down. You have to be careful. What I'm giving you is my life. It's my life. You may be seated. Thank you. Thank you. What you don't know now, you have no interest in knowing. You can set a time and a date, like they would set times and dates and say, give us so much time and we're coming back to you, O King. with your dream. And they would go on and dream the king's dream. Your sons and daughters shall prophesy, and your elderly shall dream dreams, dreaming dreams. A man cannot describe your dream to you unless he is dreaming what you dreamt. And they shall dream dreams. They shall dream dreams.
Your old men shall dream dreams.
So if you feel like you are a dreamer and you are ashamed because you think it's a gift given to the elderly, you have to understand that's in reference to maturity. It has nothing to do with age. The young ones, it means even at a level of immaturity, you can still prophesy.
Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy.
You can still prophesy. I said it last week. I said there was no church as carnal as the Corinthian church in the Bible. No church was as carnal as what?
Corinthian church.
That was the youngest. That was the church for boys and girls in terms of spiritual stature. Yet Paul had to write a letter and say, you guys, when you are prophesying, because you have too many prophecies, give each other a chance. Let one prophet sit down, because it was a prophetic buffet. At that level of what? Immaturity. And you think immaturity is what is stopping you from prophesying. Maturity is not in the prophecies. Maturity is in how you prophesy. That is where maturity is going to come in. How? Not getting information from the Lord. God talks to children. There was no way that you could be born again unless God said to you, come, and you responded. You heard God's voice. Before you were born again, you could hear God. When you hear his voice today, harden not your hearts. There is no one who can be born again unless he has heard. So at that level of not being born again, you can still hear God. God would speak. Kings in the Bible would open their eyes and see a hand writing on the wall. No baptism, no Holy Communion. They are already into realms of visions. Saul, why do you persecute me? He was on day what fast? Who is talking to him? Not even an angel. Jesus that you desire to see every day. You can't see him, yet you think it's because I'm a sinner. Ask Paul. He didn't need to fast and pray. All he needed to do was to commit atrocities, evil, until Jesus appears to him. Wasn't it the king Nebuchadnezzar, not even the pope, not even the priest, who saw an image of kingdoms to come? What kind of a detailed prophecy is that? Given to who? Not an intercessor. I'm trying to provoke you so that you realize that at that level where you are, you still have access to these things. Information that the devil used to bring you down, when he brings that information to me, I will take him to those places, and I'm showing him people like that. How about this one? God spoke to him. So how come you want to tell me that God cannot talk to me, Walister? if I'm not spiritual, you don't want God to talk to me, and you're telling me, you devil, you're telling me that I'm not spiritual enough for God to talk to me, and yet you being a spirit, you're talking to me. Show me your flesh. It's spirituality that qualifies me to hear you. You can't condemn me. You can't be telling me every night that I'm a sinner. How come I can hear your voice like that? Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Timing is very important. Do you know, I can tell you this for your own information. Do you know there was a time when I get a vision? It was a dream. And then I saw. And then what I saw, I went to Life Haven in the morning at Mount Hamden. And it was recorded. These guys had it. I had seen a ship sinking. And I'd seen the number of people that were going to die. And I'd seen the name of the ship. And I went to the Life Haven and I announced this, and I asked people to pray. Do you know that on that same day, whilst I was just scrolling, I don't know how, maybe that's how God led me to that. There was breaking news on most of the channels. It was just coming down like that. There was a ship that almost sank. And people were being rescued. Now, I had said it in the morning. It was not live. And what was coming out, it wasn't like it happened after I had prophesied. It was the same night that I was having the dream. So I went and then I told the people, thinking that this is something that was coming. And what I saw that same day after Life Haven in the evening when I came back home, it was something that had actually happened the previous night, the same night that I was having a dream. And I told the people, because what I saw now, what I'm seeing on television is the exact ship, the name is there. But thank God, at least people are not what? People are being rescued. But I'd seen it. I had to call the media guys and said, please, I have a prophecy that I gave in the morning. I'm just realizing it now. Get rid of that. I'm telling you the honest truth. Delete that. Because if that is to come out, it's after it had already what? Happened. Yet I'd not seen that. I don't even watch most of these news platforms, news channels. But I was led there. Is the same prophetic God warning me before we release that kind of a prophecy to the public. So even at home, you pick your remote, you have to prophetically scroll. You are being led by the Spirit so that you correct a mistake that you made in the morning. So many things can happen in the prophetic. You can miss it with an inch. It will become false prophecy not because you didn't see well, but because you didn't present it well. Wrong timing. Timing. It was Philip who went and he invited who? Nathanael. And as they were coming, Jesus saw. And immediately, before Nathanael could sit down, so Jesus was not just prophetic, he knew the right time. So he said, Nathanael, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile. And he said, how did you know? He said,
Before that Philip called thee, when thou wast under the fig tree, I
saw you. That prophecy is deep, number one, because Nathanael knows that Philip doesn't have a cell phone. There's no WhatsApp. So there's no way that he could have texted Jesus to say, I'm bringing a guy that I found under a tree. So Jesus has to begin to prophesy even before Philip comes to Jesus. So timing. You allow Philip to get to you and then you prophesy to Nathaniel. Nathaniel is going to believe that Philip is giving information to Jesus. So timing, whilst they are still coming, knowing the right time to deliver the prophecy. Before Philip gets to you, you delay a little bit and Philip comes to you and he says, say, how are you? And then the time you begin to prophesy to Nathaniel, Nathaniel is going to suspect that, no. This cannot be prophecy. He was told by who? So what you see Jesus doing there is not just the prophesying, the right time. Eliminating doubts, dissolving doubts. Before that guy, so that you know there is no any other media that could have given me information that you were under a tree. He began to prophesy to them whilst they were still coming. There is emphasis about that. Whilst they were still coming. The right time. You can delay it. You're telling people in the morning what has already happened in the night. If you're a true prophet and you are concerned about your integrity in the prophetic, don't prophesy the obvious. Don't. Avoid. You don't want to be competing with political analysts. They can look into situations, they almost can tell who is going to win in Nigeria. You can almost see. So leave that one. Once you see that, don't fall into that trap. Protect the integrity of your prophetic grace. No?
In fact, this prophecy is so profound, it's probably still there on YouTube. There were no signs that Hillary Clinton was going to lose. And you prophesied, men of God, from another level. No one knew that she was going to look like sick and people were not going to vote for her. But you went through in detail. And the opposite of what people were thinking is what happened. She lost.
Is she going to survive the collapse?
Yes.
And she was captured collapsing.
Yes. Exactly, man of God.
They wouldn't have allowed her even to contest if they knew that she was that sick. But my concern was, is she fit enough? So it wasn't about who is going to win. So you move away from the rest. Let them move away from the obvious. I knew when our president was going to die. I told him, he wrote it in his own book. I said, write this date down. If you hear that he goes beyond this day, not by 2 days, this is the day. And I told him 2 years before him. So that when you follow me, you know the man that you are following. I gave him everything and how he was going to die. I did not bring that to church. Why? There were so many prophecies about his death already there. Why? Because people are collecting prophecies from environments, the obvious, where things are heading towards. If you worry about the integrity of your prophetic, your gift, and so on, there are things that analysts can tell you that this guy is going to win. Don't go there. Unless it is the other way around. Don't say exactly what they are saying. Everyone can see this is where things are going, and then you come and then you say that is prophecy. No, unless if it's the other way around, where people can say, this prophet must be very, very careful. Then that one you can prophesy. What if God shows me? What's the need if that's the obvious and everyone already, that information is available, it's obvious to everyone. What's the need for that to be prophesied about? What's your... Take it easy. I've never been in an environment where I was banned from allowing people to ask questions. This is terrible. A protest.
Baba, the shocking part is, the question was, how come Daniel did not, Daniel had to ask for time? Then you are bringing the question exactly as it was. I show Pastor Rukwat where I wrote. Then I said, yours seems like the prophetic buffet. So I was asking my wife here how to pronounce the word buffet. So you come and put exactly the same thing as it is. That's where my issue is.
Are you complaining?
Yes, I'm complaining. It's so hard to ask questions, honestly. But this is way before, because my question is written. And I asked my wife about the pronunciation of that word way before. So you come and you're saying everything as it is.
Oh, imagine you people. This is something that I was trying to at least bring you to a place where you can realize that the little that you've been able to see so far is deep prophecy. And you've been keeping that to yourself because you're waiting for a bigger prophecy to come. And you've lost a lot of people that have been needing, that are so desperate for that prophecy that you have, because already you can see what you don't have is even what they don't have, those big prophets. Yet they are prophesying already. It's not easy when you look at a person and you know this person is having a back problem. Whilst he's working properly, everything is okay. People are hiding things. Being able to penetrate and see that, it means you are deep. The Holy Ghost in you is already speaking. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Hey. So you start by blessing the Lord. I bless him because in as much as it is not even him giving me information, though it is my own reins giving me information, but I bless the Lord because he gave information to my reins. I have a part of me that knows what I don't know. So I know what I don't know. It's just that my mind doesn't know it. So I have to study how to transfer and upload the information. Okay. Things that you think that you don't know. I've come today to tell you that you what? You know. And the part of you that doesn't know is your mind. And the part of you that knows are your reins. So communication between yourself has to begin from today. So you will go to bed and you will have dreams that are not coming from heaven. Dreams that are not coming from God. Dreams that are coming from your reins inside. Your reins, when information gets to your mind from your kidneys, you will see your purpose. You will wake up knowing. And you think God told me, and yet God had told your reins the day he created them. So purposes were put in you. Everything you want to know has been placed by God in different locations of your body. What is needed now is an establishment of a ministry between you and you, so that there's a proper communication amongst yourself. You go to bed so that you understand yourself. Listen to yourself attentively. Listen to yourself attentively. You'll hear things that came from God the day you were formed in your mother's womb. And when that information gets to your brain, you will not hear it in form of a voice. You will hear it in form of knowing. 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 Some of you, because you don't understand how the prophetic works, you stand before a prophet and he calls you, come stand over here, and then he looks at you, and then he gets information from your reins, and then he put it into your brain. He makes you aware. And you are thinking God is telling him information, and yet he's reading your reins, because reins give counsel. Reins give counsel. Reins give counsel. Reins give counsel. A man who cannot hear God, yet he has developed himself well to a point where he can hear things that have heard God, can still end up knowing and hearing what God would have said. A man like that, in as much as he's not a prophet, he can summon all of his sons and he says, my sons, come together. I want to tell you what will befall you in latter days. And he sat at the corner of a bed, holding on to his staff. And he said, my sons, come. All of you, my 12 sons, come. Come. And I will tell you what will happen to you. And he began to, as if, prophesy to them, yet without a prophetic gift. And if you look at how he was prophesying, he was not collecting information from God. The way that he prophesied even to Jacob, that you will leap over the wall and so on. How are you prophesying like that? If you look at how Joseph had already survived different assassinations. He was in a pit. He was brought out, handed over to the Ishmaelites. He went into Egypt again, right? And then again he was in a pit, another jail, underground. Again he came out. There is a behavior of leaping over boundaries and limitations and walls. So the father here, Jacob, is not prophesying according to what God is telling him. He's reading the reins. He's already seen a trend. So even by that, there are people, you can have a gift that can read into the character of people. And you know the eventual happening. That's exactly how Jacob was able to predict and to prophesy what will eventually happen to his children, given their behavior demonstrated. A son with this kind of a character will make it in life. It is not getting information from God, he's getting information from a character. You can look at certain people in your ministry and tell that I'm not going to have this person for the next 2 years. He's going to leave this ministry. Why? Because you know that what you preach against, his life is not consistent with that. So you're not getting information from the Lord, you're getting information from the reins, the character, the behavior of the person. Before God speaks to you, so many things would have spoken to you. Are you attentive enough? Everywhere you go, people come to you, greet you. How are you, men of God? The moment you hold their hand, there must be a transference of information. And suddenly you begin to know this person has got some blood problems. There is an issue that he's fighting. This woman is bleeding. She's having a problem. The womb is not right. it needs correction. But she did not communicate that to you. All you did was to touch her. There is no any other place. You only got closer to her and you picked it. So do not complicate this. Take it easy with this ministry. God wants you to know. How do I know? He has made it known already. To other things lesser than you. Other things lesser than you. It's easy. If God wants you to know information about, maybe it's a tree, He has to give you information about the tree. This is a tree, these are the branches, this is how it grows, this is. And that process is much more slower. It will take you time to understand the tree. You need more speed, especially in this generation. The easiest and the fastest way is when you can become the tree for a moment. Suddenly you know yourself. If I can become you for a moment, then I know your name because you know you. I know what you did because you know what you did. Is the fastest technology available currently now in the prophetic. I think it's a 17G or so, not 5. It doesn't matter whether it's a project. You are rearing cows. You get close to it, you touch it, and then in a flash, if you can become it, you know where the pain is. It's different from being told what your cow is going through. I'm trying to close. You get to services where you will know that this person is having this kind of an affliction without you being told. But you would know how. You will know, but how? It's a principle in the Bible where the Bible talks about Jesus who is touched by the feelings of our infirmities. He is touched by the feelings of our infirmities. There's a feeling that is not his, but it touches him. So he will know what you're going through by feeling what you're feeling. Now, that's another level of hacking in the spirit. Akira, if you are coming from here. Who is what? So how do you operate under that? It's a dimension in the prophetic. I wish I had time to explain all of these things to you. Okay? You'll come. Sometimes there are moments when I get to somebody and then I feel that I'm having a knee problem. But I didn't have that. If you are there standing next to that person and then you are very, very attentive, you want to hear from God and then you don't hear, and yet your knee is hearing. The information is given to your brain, the information is given to your knee. It's up to the knee now to give counsel to the brain. The need to instruct you is no longer up to God. So what you need to do now, be seated, I'm closing. It's going to be difficult for some of you to know because it takes a lot of concentration. Because before you leave your house going for a service, you must have known your current original feeling before you are touched by external infirmities. So that you know that if you are going to have a headache, you will know that that's not my headache, lest you call it your headache. So you must leave your house having programmed yourself, having felt your head, having felt your arms, knowing that I have no pain in any part of my body. So when that is established, and you're going to now walk into a different environment, and then you touch somebody, and then a certain part of your body responds in a certain way, you will know that it's not you, it's him. Because the you that you know is in that kind of a state. What they do when you're into transport business, and what you're transporting are goods, there's a requirement sometimes. I think the VID, like in this in locally, they require that you weigh, you know, the weight of the cargo that you are transporting. But if it's in a vehicle, it doesn't mean that there's a weigh bridge. So your vehicle drives and then it stops on top of a way. It's like this one. The vehicle comes from there, it gets here, it stops. And they calculate the total weight. But the weight of the vehicle is included. But so the weight of the vehicle has to be known and subtracted, so that you're left with the weight of the cargo, the luggage. Okay. So that's why I'm saying you need to have an understanding of yourself first. Before you leave your house, you know your weight. You know your feeling. I don't have a problem today. How come it just started whilst I was ministering? You were supposed to have made an announcement. There is a person here who is having a problem. You see, you're waking up in the morning, every time you open your eye, you can't see, your right eye is giving you problems. And yet, it's something that has actually happened to you whilst you were ministering. So you know that, no, that's not my weight. It's another person's infirmity that has touched me. So it will take you time to understand your own weight, your own personal feeling, lest you call other people's diseases your disease. You can be sick on behalf of your wife. You can be sick on behalf of your brother. There could be somebody in your generation who is having that affliction. That might not be your dream that you had last night. You are worried about other people's dreams. You can't be chased by devils in the night. You know at your level of salvation that cannot happen. So that must be somebody else's dream. You know that's not my registered weight. That's not me.
Please, Baba.